In April of 1912, I was 17 and looking forward to attending Princeton University in the hopes of becoming a prominent banker. I was excited to board the Titanic, but was unaware of circumstances to come. The Titanic was named for its size, as long as 4 city blocks and as wide as a 4-lane highway. Its 9 decks allowed it to stand as tall as an 11-story building. Weighing in at 53,000 tons, it was the biggest ship of its time. The boat was Irish-built, and it took just over 2 years to build, costing $7.5 million, or $123 million in today's money. My father told me as we boarded at Southampton, England on April 10, 1912, that our tickets cost 86 pounds, or $430 US apiece. There were about 2,207 passengers on board, and the majority of them were third class. We set sail from there, headed toward Cherbourg, France. After a brief stay in Queenstown, Ireland, we headed toward New York. Many referred to it as the ship of many dreams, and honestly it was. The grand staircase was elegant, and the rooms were simply breathtaking. Through exploration, I found we in the first class were living a life much different than the 700 men and women crammed in the third-class cabins. On the first-class deck, we had access to a gymnasium, a beautiful dining saloon, and a room to run and play. We sailed along through Friday and Saturday, no passengers realizing the warnings our captain had received. Captain Smith was an intelligent man, but pressure from Mr. Ismay may have impaired his judgment. Although we steered clear of ice for these 2 days, our luck ran out on one quiet Sunday. I had breakfast with my mother and father, and then we attended church services led by Captain Smith. That evening, I shared a conversation with my friend Milton Long. We then stepped out on the deck for some fresh air. There was no moon, and I have never seen the stars shine brighter. They sparkled like cut diamonds. It was the kind of night that made one glad to be alive. I went to bed as normal until I was awoken around 11:45 p.m. by a collision that jerked the entire ship. The boiler room filled with water, and the grinding noise awoke the passengers. The engine stopped and started again, and the halls filled with voices. I put on my overcoat and walked out of my room, where a crew member informed me that we had struck an iceberg. I then saw Thomas Andrews, the ship's designer. He told me that the ship would sink in about an hour. As my heart raced, I ran to find my parents in our life vest. We rushed to the deck where Officer Murdoch yelled, "Women and children first!" There were only 14 lifeboats, which at capacity could only hold 1,100 people altogether. At 12:45 a.m., I said goodbye to my mother as she boarded the lifeboat. Shortly thereafter, I saw Milton Long again. He and I hurried across the deck with my father. Rockets exploded like fireworks above the ship. The orchestra continued to play, and the sound of people screaming was deafening. Soon the crowd separated, my father from Milton and I. As Milton and I watched the surging crowd, we witnessed the last lifeboat leaving at 2 a.m. 1,500 people were still on the sinking ship, including Milton and I. Milton did not want to jump, but I knew we had to. The impact of the frigid water knocked the air from my lungs. I stayed underwater for about a minute, then the pressure released me. When I reached air again, I watched the stress of the steel hull snap the ship in two. I swam with all my might to an overturned lifeboat. Harold Bride pulled me up. At 2:17 a.m., the ship vanished into the Atlantic Ocean. It was now April 15, 1912. We were 400 miles southeast of Newfoundland, and there was nothing to do but wait. Hours passed, and finally, as the sun arose and the ocean liner Carpathia appeared, 705 people were rescued. My mother and I were 2 of the survivors. 3 days later, on April 18th, we arrived in New York and stepped foot on land. I was traumatized by the images and aftermath for the rest of my life. 951 passengers and 685 crew members were lost, including 54 children. Although my life led to future success after the disaster, becoming a prominent banker, a husband, and a father of 6 children, I was still haunted by the memories, but even then, I feel lucky to have been on the grandest ship ever built.